Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. A special shout out to the Kenyan TVET students joining us from the DAXM25 and DESS25 cohorts. Today, we're really digging into how to master your career ecosystem by breaking down Chapter 4, Maintain Professional and Personal Development. Whether you're gearing up for a career in environmental science or extension education, you've probably noticed that the Kenyan workplace is evolving incredibly fast. To actually thrive in it, you need a solid blueprint for continuous growth. And well, that's exactly what we're going to build together today.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be mapping out everything from the core of true growth all the way down to staying dynamic and resilient in a changing landscape.
All right, let's jump right in with Section 1, the core of true growth.
So we often treat personal and professional development like they're two completely separate things, right? But they are actually deeply, deeply interconnected. Think of it like a tree. On one side, you have your personal development. That's the internal soil. We're talking about building your internal attributes, things like emotional intelligence, self-confidence, and communication. On the other side, professional development represents the visible branches. It's highly targeted. It's about hitting those big career milestones, like mastering new diagnostic software or finally landing that promotion. But here's the real secret. If you actively build your confidence and communication skills on a personal level, you're instantly better equipped to negotiate for that promotion or lead a team out in the field. Growth in one literally fuels success in the other.
Moving right along to Section 2, Choosing Your Learning Paths.
Now, it turns out that truly mastering your craft requires a solid mix of both formal and informal paths. For our DES25 environmental science students, your formal path might look like a highly structured university workshop on climate adaptation, but your informal path, say a peer study group on GIS mapping, is honestly just as vital. It's the exact same story for our DAEXM25 extension education students. Formal, accredited agricultural seminars are going to give you that certified baseline knowledge, but an informal mentorship on how to actually communicate effectively with rural farmers, that's where you learn the real nuance of the job. You absolutely need both to succeed.
And listen, real growth doesn't happen just by sitting in a lecture hall. You've got to get out there. It relies heavily on active training methods. Take on-the-job training, or OJT. This means you're learning while you're actively doing the work. Maybe you're out testing soil samples or running community surveys. Apprenticeships and cross-training are massive game changers here too. Cross-training simply means learning tasks from totally different departments. An environmental scientist who cross-trains just enough to understand basic community extension communication, that person is going to be incredibly versatile and super valuable in the Kenyan job market.
There is a really powerful idea we need to touch on here. Moving from student to teacher is a significant step in professional development. Sharing what you know, whether that's by acting as a resource person or presenting at local workshops, completely solidifies your own expertise. I mean, when you have to stand up in front of a room full of people and explain sustainable farming practices or complex environmental regulations, you realize very quickly what you actually know and, well, what you don't. Plus, doing this seriously boosts your visibility, firmly establishing you as a subject matter expert in your industry.
Okay, Section 3, Bridging the Skills Gap.
So how do organizations actually figure out where your skills might be falling short? They follow a pretty specific chronological sequence to audit skills and assess training needs. First up, they do a job analysis to see exactly what the role requires. Then, they might send out surveys or even directly observe you while you're working in the field. Next, they'll usually run interviews and focus groups to gather more in-depth, qualitative data. And finally, they use performance appraisals to get a crystal clear picture of where you're excelling and where you might need a bit more training. Understanding this exact process is a huge advantage because it helps you anticipate exactly what your employer is looking for.
But look, training doesn't just happen by magic, right? Mobilizing the right resources is absolutely critical. Imagine a Kenyan NGO wants to train its extension officers on a new variety of drought-resistant crops. To pull that off, they have to align 5 crucial elements. Do they have the financial budget? Do they have the human resources, like expert trainers? What about the materials, the dedicated time allocated away from normal daily duties, and a conducive learning environment? If literally any part of this equation is missing, the training just won't work.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Validating Your Industry Expertise.
You can have all the technical skills in the world, absolutely. But let's be real, without the formal credentials, it is incredibly tough to move up. You could be the absolute most knowledgeable environmental scientist in your entire county, but without the formal piece of paper, employers and government bodies literally cannot legally or officially recognize your expertise. These credentials are what unlock your career mobility. They also protect industry standards, making sure that everyone operating in the field meets a strict baseline of competence.
Let's make this super specific to you guys. For our DESSS 25 students, validating your expertise means acquiring your NEMA certifications from the National Environment Management Authority. If you want to run environmental impact assessments, you absolutely need that EIA licensing. On the flip side, for our DAXM 25 students, it's all about securing your specific agricultural extension accreditations and community development certificates. Make no mistake, these specific credentials are the exact keys that will unlock doors for you across all of Kenya.
Section 5. Strategic Alignment and Priorities.
There is a massive, and I mean massive, synergy when you align your personal goals with your organization's goals. Employee motivation completely skyrockets when personal capacity building is directly synced up with the broader mission of the workplace. On the individual side, you're enhancing your own capacity, learning how to troubleshoot faster and handle complex tasks completely on your own. But on the organizational side, your growth feeds directly into the company's overall effectiveness. When you get better, your company or your ministry gets better at adapting to new technologies and minimizing errors. If you can clearly align your personal growth with your employer's mission, you will always be viewed as a high-value asset.
Now, field research is intense. To avoid burning out, you've got to master prioritization, and the Eisenhower Matrix is an absolute lifesaver for this. It helps you categorize your tasks by two simple metrics: urgency and importance. If a task is both urgent and important, you do it first. Simple. If it's important but not urgent, like, say, planning a community training for next month, you schedule it. If it's urgent but not important, you delegate it to someone else if you can. And if it's neither, you just eliminate it entirely. Using this matrix stops you from running around putting out tiny fires all day while totally ignoring your major, long-term professional goals.
Alongside setting those priorities, you've got to fiercely manage your daily commitments. Use digital time management tools to keep your schedule organized, but honestly, perhaps the most important thing you can do is set firm boundaries. You have to learn how to say no when extra commitments threaten to derail your core priorities. Also, remember that effectively delegating tasks isn't just about lightening your own load, it actually empowers your team members to learn and grow too. And of course, try to frame all of your commitments around SMART goals. Make them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Finally, Section 6, Staying Dynamic and Resilient.
Building long-term career resilience means you absolutely have to stay dynamic. The worlds of environmental science and agricultural extension are not static, not even close. Policies change, climate patterns shift constantly, and new technologies pop up every day. To stay relevant, you must embrace continuous feedback loops. Try to participate in job rotations to understand different facets of your sector. And maybe most importantly, you need to experiment without that paralyzing fear of failure. Getting out into the field, trying things via trial and error, and then taking the time for deep reflection to identify lessons learned, that is how true, lasting innovation actually happens.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to spark your journey from student to true industry leader. The Kenyan workplace is evolving incredibly fast. So, what new skill are you going to master today to future-proof your career for tomorrow? Whether that means mastering GIS software, leveling up your rural communication, or finally grinding out that NEMA certification, your professional development is entirely in your own hands. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I seriously cannot wait to see the impact you're all going to make out there in your fields.